Hello, hello. This space is going to be recorded. I don't expect anyone to join. I just wanted to share this space to really share my thoughts and opinions on the recent news of Deeper Network. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to pin some information. Get that. And then we're going to start talking about this. Or I'm going to start talking about this to myself. I do want to invite Eric and Deeper Not Space, just in case. Deeper Network is a relatively small community, and that's okay because we're early. Now, I'm going to go ahead and. Okay. So, from my understanding, there is drama going on in the Deeper Network, and specifically from a Twitter user, uh, Carnitas VC, and their handle is at CNTSVC. Now, in their bio, they say that they're a venture capitalist, that they're a part of a red team. For those of you who don't know, you have security experts, white hat, black hat, gray hat, red team as well. So when we talk about red hats, right? Red hats, hackers. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the different hats that hackers wear, just to give some background in this space, right? A red hat hacker are vigilantes of cybersecurity. A red hat hacker uses their hacking skills to gain a technical advantage over black hat hackers. And a black hat hacker is someone who has malicious intent, right? A white hat hacker is someone who designs computer software to stop black hat hackers. It's the game of cat and mouse. A red hat hacker uses aggressive steps to directly hack black hat hackers. So think of it like this. White hats focus on security, right? Black hats focus on breaking systems. Red hats do a little bit of both, and they specifically target black hat hackers. So this self-proclaimed red hat hacker, Carnitas VC, who says in their bio that they're a venture capitalist, they also say that we short crypto, showing that they're an anonymous group of people, right? So one of the interesting things that I've noticed about their profile in general is they only have content as far as March 6th, right? Very, very recently was this account made. And everything on this account is basically, for anybody who doesn't have an understanding of computer science, it's all gibberish, right? To the everyday person. They have no understanding, no clue what any of this means, but they are talking about how they've hacked Deeper Network and how they've, you know, have this great, amazing exploit that's happened that will send Deeper to zero. But it's interesting because they have in their profile, we short crypto, which kind of shows intention to short crypto, right? Like, so I'm of the opinion that yes, they pointed out that they could SSH on a local network to their deeper network device, which quite honestly, like, It's no different than using a Raspberry Pi to SSH into your local network, right? A security vulnerability that would be big would be being able to externally SSH into a deeper network device, which is something that they can't verifiably prove and have yet to do so. Um, for those of you who don't know what any of that information is, that's okay. I'm not the best at breaking things down technically, but I'll say it like this. Your local network is like a city, right? And your internet traffic is a highway going from city to city. If somebody can have access to, let's say, the city hall, right, which governs the whole city, and they can gain access to that from another city, that would be dangerous. That would be bad, right? But that's not something that has been proven to have reasonably happened. From my understanding, and mind you, I'm not a professional security expert. I am a self-proclaimed network engineer who just does this for fun. I don't get paid for this. I don't do these things, for monetary value. I play around with Raspberry Pis. I play around with networking equipment. I've played around with Ubiquiti products for a long time. I've played around with Cisco products for a long time. I like to say I have a basic level of understanding for networking and a basic level of understanding of security. Now, from my understanding, this person has gone parabolic with it, right? The deeper network allows you to view traffic from the tunnels that they use. So let's take a step back. Let's talk about how the deeper network works for a minute. Unlike a traditional VPN, it is a hardware security device, right? That acts as both a client and a server for VPNs. So anyone who's tunneling using your deeper network device as a client, right? You have the right to view that traffic data. Okay? That is just open. That is public. That is not something that is publicly available, right? Is everyone's internet traffic data, but you as the person who is hosting that particular node has access to the traffic data that goes through your node. And the importance of that is to verifiably prove that you're not the one with, let's say, malicious intent. So if somebody, is using download torrents, you can verify it. You can verifiably prove that it was not you on your network doing that. And also, Deeper Network makes a function that shuts off the ability to download torrent, right? But let's say someone's doing something much more malicious. Someone is, let's say, trafficking. Um, you can verifiably prove that it wasn't you on your network doing that. That I think is an important feature of the deeper network, right? What this user is saying is that because you can see that traffic data of other people tunneling, that is a vulnerability, but that is no different than how a traditional VPN works. It's just whether or not that data is logged and where it is logged, right? So with the traditional VPN, your data is logged on a centralized server at a singular location. With Deeper Network, it's decentralized. So, of course, people who are running nodes and providing upstream bandwidth are going to want to see what other people are doing on their network. It quite literally can get them in legal trouble if there wasn't an ability to differentiate between someone else's internet traffic and your internet traffic on one of these nodes. It could be something that is to your detriment to have that happen. So I'm of the opinion that there's a fundamental misunderstanding of how Deeper Network operates and their devices work, and the information that this hacker has provided. They've proclaimed that they can access all internet traffic data. Cool. Like, I can verifiably prove that it wasn't me who, you know, downloaded this thing. And you can see what people are doing on your network. Like that's available on Atom OS. That's a feature and a function, not a bug. So calling it a bug, calling it a hack to see other people's data on your node, it's confusing to me, right? The whole idea of the deeper network is to decentralize the internet, right? Put the power of data in your hand. But the thing that I don't understand is from the hacker's perspective, what it is that they view as an exploit. Because from my perspective, everything that they're talking about is just features of the network. Now, I could understand other people's perspectives, you know, like not understanding, being afraid, seeing like lines of code on a screen and feeling overwhelmed because maybe you don't understand security. Maybe you don't have an understanding of Linux and exploits and vulnerabilities. I personally am a tech nerd. I love learning about tech. Originally, I wanted to become a white hat hacker. Well, I won't say a hacker, right? A white hat, because white hats don't really you don't really hack so much as a white hat, right? You focus more on security. Now, growing up, I was learning about security vulnerabilities, right? I went into a completely different field than computer science, but it's still a passion of mine. It's still something that I enjoy learning about, right? And to see the information unfold, there's a lot of people who got into Deeper Network who were uneducated about the features and functions of Deeper. You know, for a period of time, myself included, because I pretty much just set up my device to act as a crypto miner, never used any of the functions for, you know, the better half of 6 months to a year, and recently rediscovered the project, came back into it with a invigorated passion for what they're doing. And well, I believe that, you know, this topic of discussion is one that's worthy to have. I'm a little upset myself at the community response, right? I would expect the adopters of the deeper network to have a better understanding of the functions of the network. Um, from my understanding, scrolling through the conversations on their Discord and, you know, checking out the drama on Telegram and everyone going back and forth, the CEO of Deeper Network is going to make a response. Very quickly, he decided to respond by saying, I'm going to make a response. You know, that in of itself, you know, isn't enough for a lot of people. So when they just see Deeper Network's going to respond and they see somebody else, you know, just throwing a bunch of information at them, you know, you see a Linux command line as somebody who knows nothing about networking, you're going to believe that person because it's code, it's code. Like, I understand that perspective because getting into tech, I very much had that perspective. I would, you know, I used to be so proud when I was younger, and I would show my dad when I was living with him, like, um, hey, look at this sudo apt install. And I just install something, and you'd see like a string of information going through the command line. Like, don't hack the computers. What are you doing? Are you getting a virus? Like, and you know, for some people, they'll never dive deeper in how the internet works, how things function, how networking works, the seven different layers of the internet, right? And they won't ever understand like the difference between a local network and an external network, right? I'm not impressed by the vulnerabilities, you know, that are exploited on a local network. Those things can be prevented by simply using a two-factor authentication key with your root, right? If DeeperNetwork was, let's say, if DeeperNetwork was to allow you to connect a YubiKey, right, and have that tie into the functions of the device, so that way not only do you need your Atom OS password, but you also need a physical key to change any of the functions of your network or to log into the Atom OS, that solves a lot of problems. And that also solves the problem of, having anybody on your local network have malicious intent, which I'll be honest, even with the ideas of vulnerabilities being on the local network for DeeperNetwork, the best way to respond to that, quite honestly, is that, well, you know, that's everything. There is no such thing as a 100% secure device or a 100% secure network. And, local network vulnerabilities exist. That is a thing. If someone can socially engineer you to give up your root for your network, like, in my opinion, they kind of deserved it. But it's besides the point, right? They said they're going to have a technical response. I know a lot of their team are based out in that being said, you want to break down everything technically. This exploit, that this out on Atom OS, they even show it. I actively look at my logs and make sure that nothing that's going through the node that I have is fishy, is illegal, and I actively blacklist things to happen on my node, which is a feature, right? The thing that's so upsetting to me is the community response. I'm very happy and feel very fortunate to have made a friend with DeeperNot. And I love his YouTube content. I hope that he does a video about this, just going a little bit more in depth. I appreciate the people within the community who are more knowledgeable than me, who've broken down and explained things within the Discord. Without that information, I wouldn't know what's readily available and what's not. And so I think one of the cool things that I recently learned about was that you can see all of the active nodes, all of the active tunnels through the Deeper Chain portal. I didn't know that. I thought you just access it through Atom OS, which is just another way of, accessing information. But as far as I know, this quote unquote exploit, it does nothing to the security and safety of using the devices. It does nothing for you as a user. And all of the arbitrarily made points are mute, right? The idea of having logs is just a fact of using a VPN, right? Centralized servers will keep logs of your information if you use NordVPN. The only difference is you are in charge of the logs now instead of a centralized server. So if someone was to maliciously use your node, you could verifiably prove it wasn't you. That is a feature, not a bug. I'm going to repeat that again and again and again, right? And by running these nodes, yes, you can see somebody else's public IP. Again, that is a feature of the device, so that way people can distinguish and differentiate your internet traffic data from your device's node, anyone who's tunneling through your device. I personally hope that Eric or DeeperNot or anyone from the community, I'm going to butcher names, Stefano, all the great people within the community. I hope that they can respond. And I hope DeeperNetwork takes the time to address this in a way that not only shines light on the features and functions of the network and how it's different than, let's say, a traditional VPN, but also add features and functions to the network. Because this person can use an exploit on their own local network, if you don't trust actors on your local network, it would be cool to have a two-factor authentication key, a YubiKey, right? To be able to log into Atom OS. It would be cool if you could block everything on your network with a YubiKey, right? You could set rules. It would be cool if DeeperNetwork had a kill switch. It would be cool if XYZ. I think that in the future, DeeperNetwork needs to open source Atom OS so that way it can be audited by independent third parties. And that way more people can feel safe using their devices. Now, I believe in the DeeperNetwork because everything that has been explained from the hacker's perspective, it seems to me that there are features of the network and not a bug, not an exploit. The data that's being presented is not, this isn't news to me, right? I knew getting the device that anyone who uses my tunnel, I could view their IP. I could verifiably prove that it's not me. So if I was to get arrested, let's say my internet service provider found that someone was using a tunnel to buy, arms like weapons that were illegal. I could verifiably pull up the logs and say, hey, look, this was the IP that did that. It wasn't me. And like I said, that was a feature of the DeeperNetwork. It's so that way you can stay legally compliant and while still being, decentralizing the internet. If I didn't have the ability to verifiably prove that it wasn't me doing something illegal on my network, that would be scary, right? I understand how some people believe that there shouldn't be logs at all. I could understand that perspective, but that is also going to hinder mass adoption of the devices of what DeeperNetwork is trying to accomplish. It would be that much harder to sell their products in other countries. And so long as the DeeperNetwork Atom OS, the operating system, is functional, there's no exploits to the operating system, there's no exploits to the that can be performed to allow for external networks to SSH into your network, then to me, it's all mute points. It's all moot points, right? And I know I've kind of talked in circles now at this point, just repeating the same ideas that I have, talking points. This is kind of a prompted space based off of me just finding out about all this DeeperNetwork drama and, me being a big supporter of DeeperNetwork. I love what they do. I love their goal of decentralizing the internet. And while it makes me sad that it's such a small network of people really building on the DeeperNetwork, I think that the technology that they have is extremely valuable, and I could see it becoming an infrastructure that is usable to decentralize the internet. And I look at the DeeperNetwork as a portal and a gateway into Web3 in some various ways. So, for example, buy a DeeperNetwork device at $200, let's say, right? You use the next gen proof of work features of the device to earn DPR tokens over time. You also use your upstream bandwidth to organically grow a credit score. You can roll the tokens that you mine with the next gen proof of work mining into staking, increasing your credit score, which increases your mining rewards for providing upstream bandwidth. And you can do this like exponentially increasing your exposure to the network, right? With as little as just purchasing the device once. Then, right, here's where the gamification loop comes into play. You're mining tokens in two different ways with this device. You take the pool of tokens that you've earned, right? And they have partnered with a website that you can sell DPR tokens for gift cards, right? So you take your mining profits, you change your location to the subscription of whatever subscription service, let's say Netflix, Hulu, whatever. You change your location to Netflix to a place where Netflix is cheaper than what you would pay in your current currency. And then you just use your DPR tokens to buy the gift card of that particular area. So, like, for example, if I wanted to, I could sell DPR tokens for a Netflix gift card for Netflix in India, right? And compared to the US dollar, Netflix in India is like $8 for the family plan. That is so much cheaper. And so the way I look at the use case for DeeperNetwork is that people can just buy the device once, and if the device starts paying for people's subscriptions and also getting them a cheaper rate, the device literally pays for itself. And from the perspective of a Web 2 user who's not into Web 3, they're literally just plugging in this device that pays for their Netflix, that pays for their Hulu, their Crunchyroll, that pays for these things, right? And that is an extremely powerful tool to teach people the importance of the ownership of your data. And I very much think that that's a huge use case for Deeper. I believe that Deeper doesn't have the best marketing, in my opinion. I think that their marketing could be done in a way to increase community awareness, but that's going to fall upon the community leaders who decide to pick up that role. I am of the opinion that, if nobody else is going to do it, I want to help lead that charge. I'm glad that I've made friends within the DeeperNetwork channels, and I'm glad I got to talk to Eric Ma. Glad I get to talk to some of the some of the community members and just learn more about the product, learn more about the features, because the more I do, every time there's FUD that comes along, it seems like it's targeted at discrediting the DeeperNetwork. So for example, people were saying that, smart route mode isn't working. It works when you set up rules in the routing tab. If you don't do that and you turn on smart route mode, you're just going to connect with your normal IP address. Like, that's how that works. That's the function of the device. Now, going through and showing people how to do that was an important step. Explaining that is an important step. I think explaining how logs work on a DPN device is important, because I think the misconception is that the device doesn't log anything. It does. And all of the information is encrypted. But you, as a node operator, and for your own safety, can verifiably prove this traffic is not yours, that it is traffic coming from your upstream bandwidth that you're providing as a service, a utility to the network, right? And it's interesting to me because what it allows for is a decentralized internet that can still be safe, that can still be secure, that can still fight against things like, child trafficking and et cetera, are illegal arms sales. Like, let's say you see somebody trying to access a website, like let's say the Silk Road got shut down a long time ago, but let's say someone was trying to access the Silk Road on your DeeperNetwork device and that got flagged, and all of a sudden, like, now you're sitting in an interrogation room with an officer talking to you about how, like, they found something on your internet traffic, whatever. Pull up your logs and just say, look, wasn't me. Here's the IP it was. That's not my public IP. And that's important. That's important for the future of the network. That's important of the future of the internet. That's important for us as a society to determine who the good and bad actors are. I use these examples, right? Because some of the people within the Discord were using the example of, well, I can see that somebody visited a porn website on my network and I could see their public IP. Yes, you absolutely can. You 100% can. How scary would it be if you couldn't and didn't have access to logs and your internet service provider flagged you for, let's say, having content that was not supposed to be there from somebody else and you couldn't verifiably prove that it wasn't you? That's where I feel it really comes down to understanding privacy on the network. Yes, other people can see your public IP if you're using their node. That's not a surprise. DeeperNetwork had publicly made that information available to people. When you look at logs, like, you can see that. Sure, they obscure uh, parts of the IP, but you can decrypt that, right? If needed be. Like, you can decrypt that information if need be. But you don't. Like, none of these things are bugs within the network, right? From my understanding. And you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna pull up Atom OS. I'm gonna look at logs. I'm not gonna outwardly say anyone's IP address, but I want to see how much information I can actually see of anyone trafficking my data while it's or going using my tunnel as their traffic data. So I go to do device logs, right? I can see the exact IP address. I can see where the data was routed to, you know? Oh, that's all my local network stuff. Oops. My bad. Me seeing that it's my IP. Oof. Oof. Okay. There we go. Traffic. Yeah. There we go. See, I can see that this IP here was trafficking data using my tunnel to picture world I and here's another one. iCanHasIP.com. Like, I can see that people who are using my tunnel right now are using uh you know different using my tunnel for different connections. So, like, checking their IP address with iCanHasIP.com. Someone's using Netflix right now. Um oh, nice. Blocked ads. Yeah, and I know this IP address here is definitely not mine. I know the last couple digits of my IP, and that's definitely not it. But yeah, the whole point of this space was just to talk about my opinions, my feelings and thoughts on the matter. Um, I think what some people are mentioning is kind of ridiculous. Like I don't understand the fear mongering. I don't. So it just doesn't click in my head why that's happening. I'm going to continue to provide my upstream bandwidth. I'm going to continue to run a node for DeeperNetwork, continue to earn DPR through mining and providing value to the network and growing my credit score because I believe that this project is one that can affect the future of the internet. And that is my personal belief. I think with the new features that are coming out and the features that they could work on and develop, like a kill switch, will only add value to the network. Because ultimately, you know, try as much as you might, you're not going to hide your IP address from the services that you use to tunnel. Like, if you're that concerned, run your own VPN. You know, like it doesn't make sense to me. I could understand where some people might be skeptical. I could understand where some people, if they're doing something illegal on their network, where that can come into play. But ultimately, to even quote unquote blackmail somebody, like we had one user talk about how I can see someone's public IP, all the internet traffic going through my node. Yeah, that's a feature. What if I wanted to blackmail this person because I see, okay, you see they visited Pornhub. Cool. Like, what are you gonna do? Blackmail them that you visited Pornhub? I'm gonna tell, like, how do you get in contact with a person? How do there's so much that goes into that. Like, you would need to not only be very educated, you would need to run a whole fucking spear phishing campaign just to get in contact with this person, let alone, try to blackmail them for visiting a porn website. Like, really? I, I I feel that people don't have a good enough understanding of internet security. That makes me sad. I just want to say, Sir Ruggless, thank you for coming. That's recently happened. I'm still a firm believer in the project. I'm still going to continue to use the project. I think anybody who buys into what this quote unquote hacker is saying, um, they aren't doing themselves any favors. I do understand your concern because I really do. Security is important. If someone could externally SSH into my network, I would be very afraid too. But as it's been informed to me, as I've looked through the quote unquote hackers' information and what they posted, they have not verifiably proved that they've SSH'd from an external network. They've only been able to do it from an internal network, which is not surprising. It is not it's not an exploit in my opinion. Um, it's just it's so frustrating. This is the same idea as people not understanding the smart path road, in my opinion. They didn't understand the proper features and functions of a DPN. They point at a feature or function of the DPN and says, "Hey, this thing's broken." Like, it's functioning fine. You're misunderstanding the logic of the device, right? It's like, why isn't my calculator working? I put in, you know, 2 plus 2, but it's not giving me the answer to, 4 times 4. Well, you put in the wrong equation. Like, that's just what happens. Um, I think it's important to understand logic. I think to do after this space is I'm going to be holding more deeper network education spaces. I'm going to try to connect with Eric. I'm going to try to connect with DeeperNot and more community members just to really understand the features and functions of the device. What are the limitations of the device? What is possible and capable with this device? And also, just talk a little bit about the game theory, the gamification of the deeper network and how you can take part. Because ultimately, I feel the idea of just using a VPN, and for using a VPN, you get rewarded in tokens that can then pay for your subscription services at a discount, is already a pretty powerful tool. Anyone trying to use their device for nefarious or illegal activities who, get caught, good. I think that's a good thing, right? But that's besides the point. I'm going to end this space. Appreciate you for coming, Sir Ruggless. Anyone who's listening into the space afterwards, thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Eric, if you're listening to this afterwards, uh, really appreciate what the Deeper Network team is doing, what you guys are building. I'm going to continue to be a vocal, active member of the community so long as that our values align. And I feel that the Deeper Network team's values still align with me. So cool. Have a great day.